This is Into the Hen House, a podcast for moms with littles. In this space, we share the stories, experiences, and wild wisdom of mothers. We remember and celebrate the sacred. We are your hosts, Andrea and
Caitlin.
Get ready for some inspiration because it's time to jump into the hen house.
Hello, welcome back everyone. We're so glad you're here. We're so excited that you are joining us for another really exciting conversation. I'm so excited about today's guest. This is Ashley Sunshine, and we connected a little bit, I don't know, maybe over a year ago. Yeah, probably about a year ago, maybe just less than a year ago. And yeah, so Ashley is a water priestess. She is a devotee of the goddess, which is really exciting. And she helps women as they go through the sacred journey. She's a sacred women's mentor. There we go. It's like, how do I word it? That's how it was. But Ashley, thank you for being here. I'm really excited.
Thank you so much for having me, Andrea. It's awesome to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm sure people are having questions just based on your bio alone, or based on the introduction. But tell us, what is a water priestess? Let's just dive into that.
Well, I love this question. And yes, like the moment I say that to almost anyone, they're like, what is that? And so for me, a water priestess is our work and our job is to hear the voice of the divine through water, through the teachings of water, through the way of water, through the voice of water, the messages from the water. And there's so many ways to receive that message, like in your consciousness and also like physically, literally, receiving that message. And so water priestesses are basically, there's many, many faces of the water priestess. There's thousands of different ways to do it. There's activism, there's ceremonial, there's ritual, there's, holding space, there's just prayer with the water and healing of the water. There's scientists, that are water priestesses as well. But really the overarching is like we hear the voice of water and then we translate that for the collective, for the physical realm, for humanity. And we're so needed at this time. Because water, we're going through a huge transition, as we were just speaking about before we turned the recording on, that humanity and the goddess, the awakening is happening, and we're all going through a big rebirth, and water is here to support us at this time. And she's always been here to support us, right? Like we can all think back on the first time, we remember our experience with water. Maybe we saw the ocean for the first time, or we remember kind of like being in the bath and just feeling that it was incredible. Or swimming in the river for the first time, and so we can remember that water has supported us in our joy, in our health and well-being, in our journey this whole time. Yeah. But for some reason, our society teaches or like makes us believe that it's mundane, that water is just a substance that's just with us and it's just helping us and it's just there, and it is just there, because she's an unconditionally loving presence. But there's so much more to it. And you can dive into it in any direction that water pulls you.
Yeah, so this kind of feels a little like taking a side swoop, but considering water, because I've been paying attention to all these AI data centers getting put up everywhere and how they use, and rather unconsciously, so much water. So much energy, like just so much of the earth and of the resources of the earth. What is there for you? Like, what is your sense of that?
Yeah, first of all, I feel the devastation of it. And it's definitely emotional and difficult because on one hand, I see what AI is doing, and it's kind of an unstoppable force at this moment, and it's going to be a part of humanity. We can't really stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
And
time to
so,
stop it has passed.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So that, we can't argue with that, and we can't think like we can't spend time. I feel that we can't
Yeah.
spend time and energy fighting against it.
Yeah.
We can protest the use of land, and we can learn more so that we individually make wise choices about it. But to be honest with you, the impact isn't of like me asking ChatGPT, about try to help me write an email. That's not like the real users of AI. The real users of AI are designing entire companies based on AI, are coding huge software platforms with using AI. I mean, and it's giant companies. So it's not like me deciding to search on Google or meditate instead of using ChatGPT is going to make a big difference either. So I just want to, I've heard some things on the internet that are like, think twice before you ask ChatGPT. And I'm not on that boat either, because it's kind of like, the oil issue isn't necessarily me driving my car. And I'm actually, I graduated with environmental science as my degree. So I learned all about, the pollution and the problems. And me driving my car is like the tip of the iceberg with oil. It's big, large companies, large corporations that are not held responsible. Okay, so that all being said, water can never really be polluted. Yes, water is polluted, but it will never actually be polluted in the sense that it can't return to its original form. Water holds its essence forever. So nothing we do can alter the essence of water, and it will always return to its original state. Our job as water priestesses are to support water in moving forward to its pristine state. However, it's not a loss. Like, no water's lost. Just like energy is not created or destroyed, water is not created or destroyed. So what it is, I feel, is a call to prayer. It's a call for all of us to, instead of like using our energy to fight, like bring it back in and use our energy to pray. And it's less about praying for them, praying for, but praying for ourselves and praying for those who need prayer. Yeah. So this is my approach, and there's much more to say, but I'm not scared for the water. And I do think it's a little bit of a psyop, like a myth that's been spread to make us fear that water can be polluted and not restored, and that we're going to run out of water at some point. I do not believe we're going to run out of water. I believe that there's actually vast stores of water under our planet, bigger than the oceans, of fresh water, of good water. Yeah, and you can dig into that if you like. It's called primary water. So anybody that's listening that wants to dive deeper into that idea, it's called primary water, and you can dive down the rabbit hole. But
Yeah.
there's plenty of water.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because I also feel like we've kind of been told like the land is going to run out and the earth is, and certainly all of the use of chemicals and pesticides has probably not been particularly beneficial for Mother Earth. And in looking into regenerative farming and things like that, it's like there's so much ability to regenerate. Like, given time, just being left alone, the
Yes.
earth will, begin to become bountiful again.
Yes.
So I think that's a really beautiful perspective. And yeah, I agree with you on that. I don't think fear does any of us very much good.
Exactly. So we need to really be mindful and watchful about fear mongering, which is very, very rampant, and it's easy to buy into it, because people do have horror stories, and there are really sad things that happen and there people are suffering, in certain ways, shape, and form. And we can have compassion for that, but also not buy in to the fear narratives. There's a tick one going around really bad
Yeah.
this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm really doing everything, everything I can to like not be afraid to go outside and to like not buy into it. Yeah, because it's not my story.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is something like it's fine to be aware of things. And, even in, let's say, like the health space or the quote unquote crunchy space, it's like you can go too far where you just become afraid of everything and everything is problematic. And to some degree, that's just the world we live in. Everything is kind of problematic in its own ways.
Yeah.
And yet to avoid everything is impossible and not healthy. And, to live in fear of ourselves or our bodies or the earth or the sun or
Yeah.
is also not
Exactly.
healthy. You know what I mean?
Yes.
If one believes in magic, all of a sudden a lot becomes possible.
Yes, exactly. And I do, and we do.
Yes.
And I really, then when we say priestess, it's like this is the job of the priestess is to live a life imbued with magic and like to choose love over fear, to make decisions, to actually like look at our everyday choices, like what choices are we making? And is that choice coming from love or fear? And a
Mm-hmm.
priestess is here. We are here to make choices from love. And we're here to help focalize of our communities to also choose love, to make choices from love, right? Like, what do I want to do today? I want to go out in the sun because I love the sun and I love
Mm-hmm.
nature and I love the earth and I love adventure and I want my body's craving adventure. I'm not even with all that true. Okay, I'm really afraid of ticks and pollution. What am I going to choose? Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So speaking of adventure, you have done some really exciting solo travel trips. You have a young daughter. I forgot to
Yes.
say that as a part of the introduction. You are a
Yeah.
mom,
Oh,
and your daughter's a little over a year, and you've done a couple of really exciting trips. I know of at least one, but I think you've done a few more than that. Some day
yeah.
trips, some longer trips. I know you went to Jamaica,
Hmm.
but tell me about the adventurer in you and like what these trips do for you. Just kind of like on all levels, because
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's really cool because, like, to segue from the water, the water calls me. And sometimes I don't realize it until, like, looking back. So it can be subtle sometimes. But, like, the water called me to Jamaica. And I'll tell you a little bit more of that story. But to kind of, like, start it off, my Aunt Ann, she was one of my caretakers when I was a little kid. And she told me so many times, like, that I kept saying that I want to travel the world. I want to see the world. Like, this was part of my DNA, like a part of my, and it's very different from the rest of my family, like, very different from how I was raised. But I just always thought in my head, there's got to be other ways that people live. There's got to be other ways to do things. And I want to know what they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so that travel bug stayed with me until I graduated college. I went to Penn State. I grew up in Philadelphia, went to Penn State, came back to Philly, and I worked for a year in corporate. And I got a bunch of promotions and, got raises and all this stuff. And I was miserable. I remember in the winter, I left work at 5 o'clock and it was already dark out. And I just sat in my car and cried because I had been under fluorescent lighting all day long and had been basically working to something that I didn't really care about. And I was frustrated at work too because I was trying to bring some of my own, passions and I was getting blocked and,
Mm-hmm.
and like herded into a certain way. And I thought like my life force is not for this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is not why I have this magical life force in my body. So I need to do something. And that's when the universe was like, yes. It was kind of like a lightning bolt of truth moment where it like cracked my reality. And then the universe started coming in and being like, New Zealand, New Zealand. And I'm like, wait, I never even thought about New Zealand. Like, why would I go to New Zealand? And everything lined up. Like, weird coincidences happened that I won't get into right now. I actually have a podcast episode on my podcast. So,
Oh, amazing.
yeah, you can link that. But anyway, so I ended up traveling to New Zealand for a year. And I thought that when I left, I was going to leave for like 5 years, or maybe even just 2, because I had a cat and I was really attached to her. And I even looked into having her move with me, but it was like too expensive. And 5 days before I left, she got hit by a car and died.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really intense. It was
Yeah.
I haven't, yeah. It was like, she was like, go, and I'm coming with you, but in spirit form. And she
Yeah.
was like my little spirit ally, or my big spirit ally for much of my life. Anyway, so I traveled around New Zealand, and the universe just like stepped in and kept me going. So I did a year in New Zealand, a year in Australia. I went to Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, and then I spent about a year in India. And then I traveled all over Europe. I ended up meeting an Israeli, and then I fell in love with an Israeli and ended up moving to Israel, which was like the last spot that I wanted to go. But it ended up being so magical. I ended up spending there almost 10 years. But even throughout my time in Israel, like I always needed that trip. I always needed like to go and see how other people do things. And I needed to like mix the waters. Like there was something about like mixing the waters, which I can touch on a little bit later. But and so my husband and I met. It was actually not that Israeli that I ended up marrying. We broke up in Israel, and I was going to leave Israel, but everything told me to stay. It was like the universe was like, no, you have to stay. And I was like single, didn't have a visa, and it all worked out for me. I ended up getting an amazing apartment to myself, and then I met my husband, and he moved in, like whatever. The universe just does these amazing things, and I just follow the breadcrumbs of the goddess. Now that's what I call it. The goddess leaves me breadcrumbs everywhere, and I just have to look and open my eyes and pick them up and trust that even when it feels dark and feels like, no, I really don't know what I'm doing, or I don't know where I am. It's like, oh, we actually never had control anyway.
Kind of one of those illusions a little bit, like yes, we do have control in our actions and what we do, and yet there's so much that we simply can't control in the world. It's like
Yes.
the world is this beautiful ball of chaos of sorts, but not necessarily chaos in a bad way, though it can often seem that way. But there's it's actually part of network spinal, which is a chiropractic technique that I love. I do it, but it's reorganizational healing. So it's like you find all the healing in the chaos. So it's like cleaning out a fridge, like when you're halfway through it, it just looks like your house blew up.
Yes.
But yet that's healing, like that's reorganizing. And in order for it to get from here to here, you have to have that blow up
Yeah.
of rotten food and stuff everywhere and everything in the middle.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And to be
But
able
I
to
feel like life is that.
life is that. And it's like I think part of kind of the culture that I was, when I wanted to travel, I wanted to see other ways of doing things because I felt so like restricted and like unsatisfied in kind of the way we do things in the US. And I'm like putting that in quotes because there's obviously so many different people, and we can't generalize because people are really doing innovative and incredible things. And like in the society and the way that I grew up, it was like, no, this is what you have to do. This is how we maintain control over our lives and keep ourselves safe until we retire and die. Like we have the plan. This is the plan. Stick to the plan. And I'm like, no, like That's just not how it works. You know, we actually have to get comfortable, like you were saying, in the messy, rotten food. Like we have to be comfortable with that because that's not just like one time we clean out the fridge. It's like we have to clean out the fridge every day. Like we have to we have periods of time where that rotten stuff is like all over the place for a while until it gets cleaned up. And so it's like, how comfortable can we get in that discomfort, you know? And I think that's what I was also craving. And I'm still craving that because even
And
now
in
being,
in not following the plan of society, but rather forging your own, like you said, following the breadcrumbs, even when it doesn't make sense,
yes.
even when it really, really doesn't make sense. Like when we moved, so we had been living in Atlanta for a long time, and I didn't know I was pregnant yet. However, I was. However, I didn't know yet. And all of a sudden, we're like, we need to move, and everything just fell together. And like we made a decision in less than 24 hours. And 2 weeks later, we had bought a business. We were in process of selling a business, and my husband had already moved to a different state.
Wow.
Like all in 2 weeks. And people were looking at me like, well, like, why didn't you tell us that you were going? And I'm like, well, we really didn't know. We really didn't know. It
Surprise to
just
me
kind of,
too.
everything just came together. And like 3 days after we had decided to move, which was just, we're like, okay, we never imagined moving to this location, but we're going to go with it because it feels so right. And it just kind of landed in our lap. So we're going to go with this. And then 3 days later, I found out I was pregnant.
Wow.
And my daughter had spoken to me, and she just said, like, right now, you can't do both right now. You can't like work a lot and have me. Like, I need you to be still. And I was like, okay. So we sped up the pace of selling my business as quickly as it could happen. And which it was a miracle in and of itself because I had such a unique little business. And then I moved too, and we just kept it really slow. And her and I, we just spent lots of time walking and rocking while she was in the womb, and just her talking to me. And it was really beautiful. And I'm going, you know, it has been a blessing after the fact too, because I didn't feel the pressure to rush back to working. Because I'd have to build something from scratch. And so, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not quite there yet. So it's been really fun how that's turned out. And it was all just not, it's like sometimes there's a vague plan, but the details, I'm going like the details and how it all turned out has been really interesting. And, you know, and people looking in from the outside, they're like, what are you doing? Like, what do you even know about this place? They're like, you must really love it there. And I'm like, I've spent about 6 hours in this location ever in my whole life. So we know nothing about it. We're just going.
Wow. Yes. Yes. I've so been there. And yep, you just got to trust. You just got to trust. And like sometimes things only make sense in hindsight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think even now being a mother, it's like more important than ever for me to do these travel experiences where I again like open my mind, like open it again, because I feel the most fear I've ever felt in my life having a baby. I feel the most like, you know, anxiety and worry about just general safety and like my role and that everything needs to be right and good. And I really never, you know, it's a new level for me in my life because I've always been much, you know, carefree and kind of a free spirit. My friends always called me a free spirit, and they still do, but it's like different now. And so taking those trips is even more important, like to just like break the routine, like free myself from more like tethers and binds that I've wrapped around myself in expectation of what a good mother is and, you know,
Yeah.
responsibility. And I'm so blessed that I have a husband, and it's not even blessed. It's like I've created this. I've created a
Mm-hmm.
husband for myself who is very supportive of my travel and who knows that's a big part of who I am and loves that part of me. And so he really encourages it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the waters, I can get more into things. I don't know if you want me to keep answering that first question. Because I did go to Jamaica
Yeah,
and it
yeah,
was
just go where
amazing.
you feel. Is I'm good to go anywhere.
Okay, great. Great. My first trip to kind of like ease into things was going to a women's business conference in Denver. And so that was at 5 months. So I was pumping a lot. And I had, yeah, that was a difficult thing because I wasn't great at pumping. I didn't love pumping breast milk, but I was really committed to breastfeeding only. And that was when I actually did introduce a little bit of formula because like I just couldn't pump enough to have her
Mm-hmm.
be okay for those 5 days that I was gone. And she was only 5 months old. But it was like another kind of moment of letting go and trusting that I don't have to be perfect and that nothing is perfect. And we just went right back to breastfeeding after it, and it was totally fine. And so there was like a little bit of, just like push and pull in terms of what things are supposed to look like in my mind versus what they do. And there was
Mm-hmm.
also like crisis going on in my family where all my grandparents had passed away in the span of the time that I returned to Philadelphia. Like I moved back to Philadelphia right after I gave birth. So I was like reconnecting with my grandparents and my family, and like all three of my remaining grandparents passed away. And when that happens, also you feel the drama that's been hiding under the surface, like truths that have
Mm-hmm.
been so a lot of these things came to the surface, and I realized like we were like, why did we move to Philadelphia? Like, I don't know, I'm from here. I'm not really sure why. And now on hindsight, like I'm still here, but on hindsight, I'm seeing that it was a big family healing, and I was meant to be here when my grandparents passed away. And I was meant to see the truth of what arose after that fact and to be able to say goodbye to them and have them meet my baby and those kind of things. And so with all that, my husband was like, Ashley, you need a trip. Like he knows me so well at this point. He's like, you need a trip. And I was like, can I go to Jamaica? And he was like, yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
so in January, so Ayla was about 9 or 10 months by then. Yeah, yeah. I decided to go to Jamaica, and I had picked a random place on Airbnb. Like I knew didn't want to be near the resorts, and I just looked at the map and I picked a random place, and I just happened to be next to these incredible springs, which every water priestess has their like preferred body of water,
Mm-hmm.
and mine is springs. And so I happen to be near all these sacred springs that like people aren't really working with there. And so I got to go and get these like divine downloads and messages from the springs and like invitations and deeply work with the water there. And not only that, but like I had gone because of all this family drama, like that was like the reason, quote unquote. But and what I received there was such a deep love from the goddess, from the masculine, from the land, from the water, that it was like God kind of communicating with me, God, goddess communicating with me that, like, yes, you have your DNA family, but you also have like this whole earth and like all of your earth family. And
Mm-hmm.
that's even bigger than, your immediate family. Like it's even more like solid because people
Mm-hmm.
pass away, like people change and
Yeah.
evolve and grow, and we grow together, we grow apart,
Yeah.
but there's
Yeah.
this like global belonging and earth family that is here for me. And so the adventures that I'm called on is like calling for that boundlessness
Mm-hmm.
of belonging and love
Yeah.
that's available.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit more about that? I think you've mentioned online like something to the degree of letting go, or like to do with I think it was to do with biological family. I could be entirely wrong though, so don't don't quote me on you. No. um, but just kind of that process of like what you're talking about, of like letting go, of changing, because I do feel like becoming a mother shifts every other relationship
Yes.
in varying ways. And in that, things that we may have tolerated for us, all of a sudden we won't tolerate for our daughters or our sons. And it's like, nope, sorry, that doesn't work for me anymore. And so there can definitely be a massive upheaval, or even a letting go, or, and I think often too in postpartum, people feel very adrift and alone. And
Yeah.
like the people that were in their life maybe don't know how to show up for them in that way. But how does then that global family, that earth family, how does that fill that void?
Oh, I love that. Yeah. So for my specific story, like there was actually multiple kind of fallings out and multiple truths that rose to the surface where I was seeing that where I thought I was getting nourishment was not where I was getting nourishment.
Yes, I had the same experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like and there's kind of when you have when I became a mother, it was a radical individualization because it forced me to claim my true values and what I want to pass on, what I want to fill my home with, what I want to finish the day and look back on the day and be like, oh, yeah, that's the underlying energy of what I brought today. These were the values that I was making choices upon. These were the resources and nutrients that I was like utilizing to create more nourishment. And so that individualization made me see that these people who I wasn't receiving nourishment from anymore, or like it dawned on me, it's because we don't have shared values or the values that we hold most high. And it might not even be mentally, it's like physically. Like,
Mm-hmm.
which values are you actually acting on? Which values are you
Mm-hmm.
actually speaking about? And your words are a reflection of those values. And so it's less about like, oh, an idea of what your values are, but
Mm-hmm.
more of like the values behind the actuality, the
Right. And
manifestation.
I think also the discomfort that comes when you're acting not in accordance to your values. Like when you're acting in this way, but you really believe something else. Like there's that inner, like,
Yeah.
like squeaky wheel that just doesn't quite feel right. And
Yeah.
I think
The
those will come up
incoherence.
too, where you're like, oh, okay, what I'm supposed to do, the shoulds and the expectations, it's like, it just doesn't feel good.
Right. It doesn't. Right. And it's like, are we putting on a facade? Like that was a lot of what I was experiencing, like the facade and
Mm-hmm.
what's real. And it's also layers of myself. Like I had to let go of layers of myself that wanted to people please, that wanted to hide
Mm-hmm.
behind a facade, of and really say what I think and say who I really am. Like I'm a witch, and that was a huge problem for a lot of my family.
Yeah.
That, and I didn't even realize that for years. I was like so whimsical about being a witch. I had no idea. And then I moved back home and it's like, actually, that's the devil and like, stuff like that. Crazy. I was like, like, it helped me familiarize with the persecution wound that I wasn't really aware of on a cellular level before. Anyway, so that individualization and the return to values, then it's like, oh, we can actually like turn to nature and turn to the global community for those values that align with us. And it doesn't mean like, all your values need to align. It just means like, oh, this value can be aligned with that part of the global community or with the ecosystem. And this value that I have can be aligned with that, teacher or friend or
Mm-hmm.
tour guide or whatever. And so it's like we start to fulfill our need for belonging from a different way. Like it's kind of like we were programmed to fulfill our need for belonging from our family. And
Mm-hmm.
now we're at this place in the consciousness where we're able to fulfill that need for belonging, with like a more global web of
Yeah.
connection.
Well, and I think with more people, because it's interesting. Like, I like what you're saying. So a lot of people will talk about the village. Like, we're not meant to do life without the village, and villages were 50 people and everyone knew you. But I'm going, and then you get very stuck in a certain way of doing things because that's the way of the village, right? And there's, I think, a lot that just doesn't fit with that anymore, of where I think people just need so much more freedom. And yet you may get some lovely connection with your biological family or the family that raised you or whatever. And sometimes for some people that will fill them up mostly because they do feel like they're aligned. And for others, there's pretty big misalignment. So maybe you can get small bits, or maybe you are completely estranged, but even for a partner, it's a lot of pressure for one person to be everything for someone. So I feel like in the loss perhaps of the strength of the more extended family, there's more pressure on the partner, but that's not entirely healthy either. So I like what you're saying. Like, I think that the village becomes a much more global and hopefully also local, because we also need in person, we need eye contact, we need physical touch, we need all these things too. We need heart space to heart space, and
Yeah, for sure.
but in a larger web, we start to fulfill our need for belonging and for conversation and for
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah.
And it's
And for
not so much
learning.
pressure on any
Yeah.
one person, and it's less pressure on us too, because we don't have to pretend to be something we're not, to not lose our connection.
That's it. That's it right there. It's like we're claiming more and more of ourselves. And we used to have to kind of hide that from our family or like, yeah, pretend like it doesn't exist. And, or I used to anyway. I
Mm-hmm.
used to feel that I had to hide a lot of parts of me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So I'm sure a lot of people can relate.
Yeah.
So as we start to claim those parts of ourselves and be open about it, we can experience rejection or abandonment. And like that's part of the reason why we were people pleasing in the first place, is to not be rejected or abandoned. And it's like, oh, actually I'm in the arms of the goddess. I'm not ever abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
The goddess loves everything about me. Like she loves all the tendrils, all the light and dark, all the good and bad and ugly, like everything. There's
Mm-hmm.
no judgment. And I just want to like, it's kind of moving from this masculine God who is above and outside of us, who made us and judges us and like tells us right from wrong. It's like moving beyond that idea, which in my understanding and mind is very, very false, and actually going back to the goddess, because we weren't made, we were birthed. And the goddess is the divine feminine who holds us in her womb. And it's like we're still in her womb. And we've always been in her womb. And we see that through the structure of biology, that the woman, the feminine being, holds the boys and girls in her womb. She has space in there for both the masculine and the feminine. She is both the masculine and the feminine. And when we are able to like switch that worldview from this God that judges us, which I believe was a another kind of myth that was planted in us to help control us and help us to like make it easy for us to people please and hide parts of ourselves, because God only wants to see the light and the good and the worthy, is actually like taking that away and saying, oh, the goddess actually already knows everything and she already loves everything because she birthed you,
Yeah.
and she's always
Well,
birthing
all
you.
of a sudden, it's a mother's love,
Yes.
like in its
Oh,
pure form, in the way that it, like as humans, it's hard to be perfect in our love. And yet, I think every mother knows that their child, it's probably the only unconditional love, outside of in a very spiritual sense, but it's
yeah.
probably the only actual unconditional love that exists
Yeah.
for the most part, at
Like
least
in our
from
human
where we are right
experience.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And that's it. Like
Like from a
that's the
like
love
from
of
a
God.
human experience.
Right.
Because I'm going, everybody else, I could ditch them. I could do without, like it would be, and I would be fine. That one's different. Like, all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's like my child. No, that's different. It's
That's
different.
different.
It's just a very fundamentally different love.
Yeah, it's so cute too because I used to go to this postnatal yoga class, and this one girl would say, we do introductions, and she would say every time, and I have the most beautiful baby in the entire world. What are the chances? And we would all giggle because we were all like, me too. What are
Yeah.
the chances? And it's like, that's the mother love. Like, you look at your baby and you're like, this is the most beautiful thing in the entire world I've ever seen
Yeah.
in
And
my
whether you have
life.
one or 12, it's the same
Doesn't matter.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is the love of God for us. That's the love of the goddess for us. And when it switches from this like external, far away, transcendental, separate from matter, kind of like spiritual energy that's very abstract, and it moves from that to the immanent, like the goddess is right here, right in our very fingernails, right in our water, then we don't have to like think like, oh, this bad thing happened to me because God is punishing me. Or
Right.
like, oh, I can't tell them who I really am because, I'm going to be shunned. Like it just doesn't, that doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't make sense. So it's really cool because I'm seeing this whole journey of like the reclamation and the healing of my family lineage and like my own like adventure global community, kind of like boundlessness of the love that's available for me as like a simultaneously this reclamation of original the original biological and like actual way that the universe formed, instead of this story that I was told. And it's like so profound. It's so profound.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of in the realm of creation, because birth is ultimately the ultimate creation, let's talk about artwork and creating art.
Yeah.
And because you are a beautiful artist,
Thank you.
and I know
Thank you.
that you channel a lot of divine messages and emotion and feeling and all
Yeah.
kinds into your artwork. But let's talk art and creation and expression and the fullness of that.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's so cool because just yesterday I was painting, and in my painting process, like a lot was coming up around, what am I doing with my life, and where am I? And I study with a woman named Abigail Sapir. She runs a course called Soul Journey.
Yeah,
And
actually, you
so
had that posted on Instagram this morning.
yes, she's
Yes.
has a new cohort starting June 8th, and I'm joining. Like I join everyone, and she's going to run a longer year-long program soon that I'm really excited about. But Anyway, so her approach is really about painting as a healing process and as like an emotional journey where eventually you build this relationship with the canvas where you're painting, but the painting is also like painting itself, and the painting is also painting you. So it's like this, it becomes like this yin yang, like this cyclical kind of energy, and it just kind of takes you on a journey. And so it's much less in the mind of like, I want to paint something beautiful. I need it to look like this. I have this idea and I want it to look like this. It's like, it's really less like that. And of course, over time, as you build your skills and your, craftsmanship, you can start doing that. But that's not what the point is. And actually, it's crazy because I feel this like frustration lately that my parents didn't let me go to art school. I was pushed into science because I also have a science brain, but I really wanted to do art. And I've made more money from my artwork now than I have for my degree, which is hilarious. But anyway, it's not like I made very much from my art, but still. So you're not less up trying to get to a certain goal and like trying to make something look a certain way. And you're having a healing soul journey with the painting. And so just the other day, I was kind of having this moment of like, who am I? What am I doing? And motherhood has done that to me. Like I used to be such a multi-entrepreneur and like doing all these different things. And I've had to slow down so much. And in a way, it's like an ego hit because it's like, well, what do I have to show for myself? Yes, I have a baby, but so many other people have babies. Like, what else do I have to show for myself? The art is a big one. Like, I love the fact that I have paintings to show for it. That's really great. But like, not even that, it's like, so the art, the process helped me to like cry and just feel and just paint and let go. And like she has this process called a freedom painting where like you have your painting that you're actually working on. Like the one behind me, it's obviously I can't just go in there and just do whatever I feel like because it's almost at the end and like it has specific needs. So whenever you get stuck, you can go over to your freedom painting. And that's a painting that you don't give a crap about. Like you're going to paint over it anyway. And if something beautiful comes out, that's a bonus. And so you just, you go over there and you can work out the emotions. And so I was working it out and the goddess came as usual and was just like, Ashley, remember the breadcrumbs. Just watch out for the breadcrumbs. Like you're good. You're held. And I was just crying it out like, okay, like my mind still doesn't know what's in store for me. Like I still don't know what adventure is around the corner. And I still don't have that control of like, what's going to present itself to me. But I have the control of, how I deal with whatever I'm going through. So the painting just really helps with that. And what's so cool is that was on Monday. So today's Wednesday. So that was 2 days ago. And this book has been staring at me from under my table for a while. And I have a bunch of books that I've been meaning to read. Like I bought a bunch of books. And that was not on the queue, like next on the queue. But it's been like staring at me. And I have a circle. So I used to run goddess circles every month for 9 years when I lived in Israel. And I'm running one tomorrow. And I kind of became like blasé about it. Like, I know what I'm doing. I'm just going to throw it together. And like, we're just going to, join up and sit in a circle. And it's going to be magical. But I got this message that I need to watch for the breadcrumbs and that like, I have the power to make this incredible. And so I don't know, through this whole, like I'm doing this art project and I'm getting the messages like, Ashley, focus on your next moon circle and make it amazing. Like give it your all. Go into it and give it your all. And I was like, okay. And then I pick up this book and I didn't even know this, but it's basically a manual for goddess circles. It was written in 1979. And I'm reading it and it's everything I know already. It's everything I know. Like none of it's new, but it's reawakening my cellular memory of what it means to run these women's circles, and the mantle that you step on when you take up, like you take up this certain mantle when you run women's circles. And it's not just like, oh yeah, let's all just sit together and we're going to connect to the goddess, like, and that was kind of the attitude I was bringing to it. But it's like, no, this is like life or death. Like, this is important work of remembering, and it is the time of remembering. And so it was just like, oh my gosh, like my painting just led me down that to reconnect to the breadcrumbs that the goddess is leaving all the time. All the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
To bring about the intention again. It reminds me of kind of, I had a teacher and she would talk about the spiral. She's like, when it seems like you're in the same place again, she's like, you're just a different level on the spiral, like as you're going up, right? So it's, even if you think you've got it all figured out and you're kind of doing the same thing, but you're doing it from a new perspective, or you're doing it with a higher vibration or a higher consciousness, or with a different evolution, or with more intention, or with more capacity, or with, whatever it is. It could be anything, but
Yeah. Yeah. It's so
but
true. And that I think what the painting, really brings forward is like having that creative practice. Really, it's not about the painting. I love painting, but like it could be a creative practice, whatever you do. It's your voice, it's drawing, it's, yoga or dance, or, there's so many ways we can create. We're just like having that.
And one doesn't have to think of themselves as an artist
That's
per
right.
se to be able to express. Like,
Exactly.
we're all born for expression.
Exactly.
You just watch a small person and it's like, it doesn't have to look a certain way, but you give them a crayon and they will make artwork all over your house.
Totally. I know my baby, for the first time, she colored all over herself, and she got some on me. And I looked up and I had no idea what was going on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have a toddler.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
You give them a little spoonful of sour cream and a sweet potato, and next thing you know, they will make artwork of it. They'll like have it all over their arms. I'm like, it's like a bath after every meal. But she's like all elegant with it, and she's like smearing it everywhere, and she's like, it's very pretty.
It's so pretty.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're all creators. And I think especially for mothers, and when in pregnancy too, this is my friends, when, now that I've already had a baby, like when my friends get pregnant, they're like, what advice do you have? And my first thing is make sure you're taking time for your creativity. Like, do art, do some kind of art, either sing or paint or draw, or go make mandalas with flower petals outside and take a picture, do photography, whatever it is, like, because that time of being pregnant, it's like you're between worlds, and I believe you have a greater access to the creative life force, and you can tap into that anytime, but like it's easier to tap into it when you're pregnant, because it's already like you're getting all those downloads for the baby. And you can also connect to your spirit baby during that time, who can give you so many messages and art ideas and visions. And so to actually take time to like ground those visions with your hands into something physical is just, it's the most important thing I think I did when I was pregnant. And now looking back, I look at those things and I'm like, just so grateful that I have those to capture that time, and to continue providing me with like a meditative focus of my own magic, that how magical we are, that we get to, we can bring babies to this world.
Yeah. I know. Sometimes I think of it and it's like, whoa, that's so wild. That's so wild. Like, wow, how lucky that I got to experience that. Like, how extraordinary and fun and just remarkable.
Yeah.
And yes, thank you for this. My I got a memo saying that my battery is running out and I don't have my charger here. So I'm going to take this moment to kind of bring us into a wrap up. But thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you
I'm
for
really,
having
really
me.
grateful. It was beautiful. I feel like we could go so deep on any of those topics. But tell us the name of your podcast.
It's called Opening the Door to Magic.
Oh, I love that. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. When I changed the name, it used to be called Sunshine Codes. It will probably get changed again. But it was really about knowing that magic is always around and it's always here right in front of us. And so my hope with the podcast is that people listen to it and like just it helps awaken little threads of how magic is right here, right now. And water is one of the best pathways into that because water is everywhere. So there's an episode called Water Priestessing that's really special that I really recommend. And I also did my conception journey on there, which is really magical. I did a trip to Glastonbury and got to go to the White Springs and Avalon, and
Oh,
that
that's
was,
fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that episode is like really magical. And then I also have my birth story. So if anybody's interested to hear, I had a home birth in the water. I broke my tailbone giving birth. It was like such an experience. So I shared that too in the podcast.
Okay, amazing. Well, I will make sure to include the podcast information and also your Instagram and all of that for the show notes so people can connect with you. And
Great.
yes, that's amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you to our beautiful listeners. Thank you for being here. I hope you have loved this as much as I have. And go ahead, follow Ashley, send her a little bit of love. Go follow her podcast. Leave a comment and a review for us here on this podcast as well. And then go do one for her as well. And, help the algorithms love us more too. So thank you, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much for listening. If you are loving this podcast, please go ahead and subscribe and leave us a review. Both of these really help the show. As you go out into the world this week, know that we are sending you so much love and wishing you a wonderful and beautiful day. And we will see you back here soon.